Hi, this is Wes from W Farmstead. So, what I got here today is I'm doing a quick yearly maintenance on the Ford New Holland 1920. Now, the 1920 is basically a 34 horse, or I think it's 29, 30 horse, 30 PTO horse, but it's like a total 33, 34 horse. Okay. This tractor was made by Shimbaru. I can never say it right, so I probably massacred that. But it's a Japanese company that made it for Ford and New Holland back in the day. So, if you take a look here, this is the 1920. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a quick oil change, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to check bolts and stuff on the front end loader and everything else. They always tell you should check the front end loader bolts. Well, this one I have not checked the front end loader bolts in a while. So I ended up finding something. If you look right here on this mount that comes down in, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts right here. So you can kind of see it, I hope. But you can see the fourth one is back there. It's kind of dark where my finger is pointing. Well, when I look over at this side, sorry, the camera kind of flipped on me. I don't have Tanya helping me today. When I look over on this side, I've got one bolt, and it's loose. Look at that. Should have 2, 3, and 4 bolts in that. That's why it is so crucial that you check these, and I have not been doing that, and I need to desperately be sure I do that on my equipment, and you should too. It's a learning experience. So if you get down in here and you look, you can see this right there. That's the single bolt that's holding this bracket on this side. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do today. Is I'm going to go, the only thing I need to do this year on this machine is on this tractor is change the oil. I've already adjusted the clutch. The clutch has been adjusted, so I'm going to change the oil, and I'm going to take and I'm going to grease it. Okay, that's the only thing I'm going to do. I've already changed the drives and the axles and everything else on this. That was done a year ago, and so that's like every 400 hours, 500 hours that you have to do the axles and stuff. So what we'll do is we'll go on ahead and we'll change the oil here. First off, so we're starting out with the oil filter. With the oil filter, you can tell I'm using a OEM part. Now, I used to always be, big on like Wicks or Napa and stuff like that, but I'll turn you around to me. I watched a video from Neil from Messicks, Neil Messicks from Messicks Kubota, New Holland in Pennsylvania, and he actually took and he cut apart several filters. Okay, he cut apart Wicks, he cut apart Napa Gold, or the Napa products, and he took and cut apart the OEM Kubota, and I believe he cut apart the C&H, Case New Holland. So what I learned, because I always used to use Wicks for everything, what I learned was that the OEM, like the Kubota filters, are so much better than what wicks and all that is. So that's my opinion, you know. That's, you know, so that's my 2 cents. You guys do what you feel is right, okay, and what you want to use. So what I ended up starting to do is use only OEM filters on the tractors and the mowers and everything else. So like the mowers we have here, these grasshopper mowers have Kubota diesel engines, so I end up using the Kubota OEM filters on them. So if you ever think about it, go search Neil Messicks, his video on what he shows with oil filters, and it's actually very interesting. So the other thing that I'm using, sorry about that, it is kind of warm today, and I'm sitting here sweating like I would say like a pig, but you know how that is, pigs don't sweat. But the oil that I'm using is a Amsoil. It's a heavy duty protection diesel oil, heavy duty diesel oil, okay? I usually, so to start out, this is a CJ classification oil. Okay, so it says CJ4 and it says CI4 plus. Do I really believe it's CI4 plus? No. For those who don't know, CI4 plus is the previous classification, so it's 2007 previous oils. The difference between the CJ and the CI is the CJ is basically made to suspend soot from the exhaust gas, or the EGR valves, the exhaust gas recirculation, the DPF filters, and everything else. What I generally use is the heavy duty diesel marine oil on all these. And the thing is over the last few years, this has gotten expensive over the COVID era, and it is basically a CI4 plus, so it doesn't have a CJ classification on it, so it's a far better oil. Since with the expense of this oil now, and with this tractor right now, this tractor only has 43 hours on it, okay? And I'm getting ready to change the oil, but just because it's annual and you time out, it's a good idea to change your oil every year, which is what everybody says. So since I'm only running that little a time, I decided that I would go on ahead and go with this oil. It is a better oil than your base oils and stuff, so I decided I would go on ahead and go with this and try this out on the equipment this year, such as the grasshoppers with the Kubota engines and the B2601 that's out there. So I am changing up, and I am using a different oil this year, so I'm going to try it out. It's not the CI4 plus classification, it is a CJ classification oil. So let's try her out and let's see how it does. Hopefully with 40 some hours it's not going to make much of a difference on this thing anyways. Okay, so like I said, there's the OEM filter, there's the part number and everything so that you can see it. All right, okay, let's get to changing this oil real quick. Okay, so I'll try to get you under here so you can see. So first of all, we've got two oil drains on a 1920. Pretty much all your tractors have that, because what they do is when you have a four-wheel drive, the oil pan splits the your drive shaft that goes down to your front end loader, or your front drive. Okay, so let's go on ahead and start out with number one. And yes, I've got my trusty rubber gloves from Harbor Freight, and no, they do not sponsor anything, just like Amsoil. Amsoil does not sponsor anything, okay? And look at that, end up getting Oil all over me. That's why I wear the rubber gloves. Okay. So as you can see, coming out pretty good. I cleaned off the drain plug. All right, so we got another one to go. Take off the second one. And something I learned real quick, always take off the far one first, then the closer one. Otherwise you're dealing with oil draining like that one on the closer one, and you're trying to get to the far ones, you get even more oil on you. So been there, done that, you know, do that by experience, which I'm sure plenty of you have already experienced that. So here we go. Okay, whenever these drain, I usually let these things drain for a long time. And just so you know, I did, just in case Kingston and Princeton are listening, you always let your engine run for a little bit and the oil warm up. That way you suspend the material and everything else that you're cleaning out, that you want out of the oil, metal flakes and everything else that you want out of the oil, you want it suspended in the oil. So when you empty the oil, it comes out. Okay? So I'll let this drain for a while and we'll be back here in a minute. Okay, so we're back up top. So now what I need to do is I need to take off this white piece that's right here. So I'm trying to make it so that you guys can see it. I apologize. And this just lifts up. And this shroud here just pulls right out. So I'll take it over here and just put it somewhere so it's out of the way. Now, what I've got to do, I'm trying to get down. If you can see, the oil filter is down there. Okay, so I need to take off this piece right here. Well, there is a bolt that's right here, a wing nut, and then there's a wing nut right here. Now, I'm going to see if I can show you, but this wing nut, I'm trying to get up in there, is pretty tight. Okay, so I just got it. You guys, I don't know whether you heard it snap or not, but it did. So what I got to do is pull off this wing nut, and then this lower piece right here will come off. So I got this wing nut, and there's another wing nut on the other side. Ooh, and something I forgot. If you ever get a chance, these magnetic trays to put parts in are fantastic. And you can usually get them pretty cheap from, yes, Harbor Freight. But Harbor Freight does not sponsor me either. So I'm not lucky enough to have anybody sponsor me, which is fine. Like I said, the main purpose of this video is to show Kingston and Princeton once we're gone, so that they can relate as to what needs to be done and how to do the maintenance and take care of everything. So, okay, so there's our other part coming off. Put it down there, and then put that in the thing. So, okay. So what I need to do is I need to get down here and pull that oil filter off. So the easiest way to do it is I've got a pair of ice grips. And now, I know I put you down. So what I want to do is I want to go this way. If you notice, I put the hours on it. The hours and the date. The date was 3/20/22 when I changed it. And the hours were 10:34.6. So let's go up and see what our hours are now. So our hours are 10:67.9. So basically, what, 34 hours? That's why I'm going to try the cheaper oil here now and go with this. Okay. So, all right, let's see if we can get this thing to come off. So I'm trying my best to do this one-handed and with you. Okay, so bear with me, guys. Nah, this ain't going too well. I'm trying. Okay, there we go. See how that's fun. And yeah, of course, I put the, did you see that? Tool fell right into where the oil was leaking. So let's go on ahead and we pull this off as quick as we can, because of course it's going to make a mess. So let's go on ahead and put that down there and let that all drain. All right. So what I do is, this is for Kingston and Princeton, is I check to be sure that the rubber gasket from the filter came off. Okay, and as you can see, it is off. So I just kind of cleaned it up a little bit. And I'll take and put this up here and just let it kind of soak up that oil. And then here in a minute, we'll put on the new filter, and then after that we'll take and we'll put these drain plugs back in, because yeah, it's draining slow, but I like to let it drain as much oil out of it as it can. Okay, so I wrote the hours on the end and the date. Yeah, I don't have a black Sharpie. I don't know what happened to it. It kind of sprung legs and walked off. So what I need to do is with your what I do is I get a little bit of oil, and everybody knows to do this. You take, but just in case, Kingston, Princeton, you put a little bit of oil on your finger, and then you put it on the gasket. Okay. Generally, I like to put a little bit of oil in the gasket in the media, which we may do that in a hurry. I don't put too much, and the reason is because if you put too much, then when you go up there to put it on, it's going to drain all over the place. So let's go on ahead and let's just put a little bit of oil in there. Okay, so basically what I'm doing is I'm trying to let it get in there and soak into the media a little bit, is what I'm doing. Okay, so that way the media is at least wet when it goes up there, because once you turn it on the side, yeah, look at that, see, oil starts coming out and it goes all over the place. Okay, so let's go on ahead. Before I put up that oil filter, let's go on ahead and let me see if I can adjust you guys. And let's go on and put these plugs back in. Now when you're putting the plugs in, you want to be sure they're tight, but you don't want to kill it and strip them out. Okay? There you go. About like that. Because it's real easy to strip this out. Now this is a steel oil pan, when you really have to be careful, is when it's aluminum, because aluminum will strip real easy. Okay, so let's tighten this up a little bit. Hopefully you can see that. I'm trying, so bear with me. There we go. So that's good and tight. All right, so let's bring it over here and let's go on ahead and now if you can see that, let's pull off the rag and let's go on ahead and yeah, well, you know how it is. Some of these times, man, I'm trying to get it on there, and you just got to be sure that you get it on there straight. I'm trying to do it one-handed. There we go. Okay. Now, this is directed at Kingston and Princeton. When you do this, you make sure you get it tight. Okay. And you always do this and then tighten it as tight as you can by hand. Okay, and that's all you do. So I don't know if you can see this. I'm putting it down. Okay, and I'm going to try and do it with both hands. There we go. That's all you ever do it. Okay, all you ever do it is hand tight. I'm sitting here and sweating to death. Okay, so now the last thing we do with this after changing the oil is going ahead and put oil in it. So that's what we're going to do now. Okay, so of course to fill, we're going to need a funnel. Now something I always do with my funnels is you look down here, I take a covered 5-gallon bucket, because whenever you have oil and stuff in your funnels, you always get dust and everything else in it. So I always take and I put all my funnels into here. Okay, like you can see an oil funnel there. This is hydraulic oil for filling the hydraulics, and then here's one that I use, this red one, for just regular oil. And you notice it stays pretty well clean staying in that 5-gallon bucket. So let's go on ahead and let's see if I can get that off of there. Okay, and there we go. So we'll go on and put that up over there, and I'll put that right there. Now, okay, so this ends up taking right at almost a gallon of oil. So first thing I'm going to do is I got the dipstick out, and I want to be sure and wipe down the dipstick before I put it back in, because I don't want any, I want to try to get as much oil out of the machine as I can. Okay, so let's go on ahead, and what I'll do is I'll start out by doing a half gallon in there, and then what I'll do is I'll wait for a few minutes, let the oil drain down in there and drain down into the bottom of the pan, so that we'll get an accurate measure on the dipstick. Okay, the one thing I try to live by, this is for Princeton and Kingston, is it's always easier to add than it is to take away oil. Because whenever I have to take away oil, then I have to go down there and grab that liquid vac thing, that oil vac system that I have over there. And like on a previous video, you saw me vacuum out the oil in a pressure washer that I have that has a Honda GX200 engine. Well, I have to pull that out and pull some oil out of the crankcase on this. And I'd rather not do that if I don't have to. It's like I said, it's always easier to put a little bit under what you need and add than it is to take away from it. So what I'm doing is, like I said, I'm waiting on the oil to drain down into the oil pan so that we can get an accurate measure. Alright, so as you can tell if you look at it right there, it's got just a hair bit of oil on it. I'm going to give it a second here, and I'm going to put it back in, and we're going to try it again, see what we got, because there's still going to be oil going down in it. And what I'm sitting here looking at is we have no oil at all basically on the dipstick. So let's go on ahead and let's add a little bit more oil. Believe it or not, that oil goes up that dipstick real quick, so you need to be kind of careful. Okay, so let's start out with that. Let's see how we're doing here. We'll give it a minute to drain down. It's still draining down the funnel in there. Then it goes into the head, and it's got to drain down through the head and drain down into the oil pan. So we'll give it a second here. Right, let's go on and check it. Yeah, so you can still see I haven't gotten anything on the dipstick yet. Okay, so it's been about 4 minutes or so. Now, what I'm going to do, the oil, I'm pulling out the dipstick and cleaning it off. And of course, you put it back in, let it sit for a second, and then pull it back out. Okay, so you can see the oil level is right here, and it should be right there. So let's go on ahead and let's put the dipstick back in, and let's add some oil to it. You know, the more I think about it, I think this thing takes about 1.5 gallons. So let's put in a little bit more, and we'll give it a minute. Okay. Okay. So we are, if you can see, we're right there. We should be right there. So we need to add just a little bit more to it. And if we're a little bit under, that's fine. I can always add later. So I think we'll add that much, and we'll see how that does. So while I'm waiting on that, what I can do is take and put this piece back in. Okay, let's see if I can get you around here so that you can see it, because you may hear me say a few choice words while I'm trying to get this in here, because it's kind of a little bit of a pain in the butt. So if you hear a colorful metaphor, I apologize in advance, which I about had one right there. Because you can't see this end, so let me see if I can turn you around this way first. Because I'm trying to get this one in. It's just in a precarious position. And then I got the camera right here in front of me. So let me see if I can get this thing in there. Yep. Let's see if I can. Hey, I actually got that one. Can you believe it? Yeah, this other one's the one that's usually the bad one. So that's the one that'll, you may hear a nice little colorful metaphor. So, let's see if I can get over here and show this one. My hands are probably going to be in the way. So, there it is. Alright, come on. Oh, what do you know? I got it, yes. Okay. Alright, tighten that one up a little bit. Turn around. Let's tighten this one up a little bit. There we go. Okay. Now, let's put this white piece in. So it goes and it sits. It's got a little hook and it sets right in there. I don't know how much you can see. And it goes right like that. And this one clips right down there. Okay. So, let's take one last look at our oil level and see how we're doing. Okay. So, wow. You look at that, it's almost exactly on right there. Okay. So we're good. So we got the oil done on it. So, I want to pull this out. Like I said, with the nice thing about having this bucket with the oil filters in it is keeps all the dust and everything else out of it. So that's why I do it. I just put everything in here. All right. Let's go on ahead and let's put this back. So I'll take and put it back over here. It's just right up there out of the way. Now, next thing we got to do is we got to grease. Okay. So, well, I'm going to try and show you. Let me show you the points of where I've got to grease. Okay. So, I've got grease points on the front end loader. So grease point is right here. There's a grease point right there. There's a grease point right there. Okay. On this one is a grease point top. There's a grease point right there. And then there's a grease point at the bottom. And then, since I've put a quick attach on here, I've got a grease point that's right down here. If you can see that. Okay. And then it's the same on the other side. Okay. With your grease points. Now, grease points on the tractor. Okay. If you can see this, you've got your front grease point there. If you come in here, you've got another grease point. Ugh, I'm trying to get you there. Give me a second. Get another grease point right there. Then you got a grease point right there on the clutch. And then there's a grease point here on the adjustment on the 3-point. Okay. And then there's also a grease point here. Now what I did forget is you got your tie rod ends and your steering right there and tie rod ends. Okay. And you got a tie rod end down here on this one. You can see right down there. Okay, so I'm going to go on ahead and I'm going to grease this puppy in a hurry. And let's see where you guys are looking at. And you can just kind of watch me. Alright, so now I need to start up the tractor, lift up the front end loader so that I can get the grease points at the top here and the grease points underneath, and then I need to turn so that I can get the tie rod in. Okay, so I've got a bar here to hold the front end loader up. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go on ahead and check the tightness on these and go on ahead and put in these 4 new ones quickly. Okay. Okay. There you go. Okay, so if you take a look at that, I only had to add 1 bolt to it. So there wasn't another, it wasn't like this one here. I think this one is holds the hydraulic lines right there. So we had 2 at the bottom. So that's awesome. Okay. So the main thing now is just go around and find all your bolts here, up under here, right here, here. And what you want to do is go through, and what I'm going to do is go through and tighten everything. I'm not going to have you guys with me on this while I tighten these, but that's what you need to do. Okay, and then you need to see those down here. You need to be sure and tighten those that go into the frame for the mounting for the front end loader right there. Okay, so that's pretty much it for Kingston and Princeton. That's just a basic oil change and lubing the tractor. Make sure that you get all the grease points on it, and then it's tightening the front end loader. Okay, the other thing is Tractor Pal. I will go in there now and I will put in there that I changed the oil, the date, the hours, 1067.9. It'll record the date. I'll put down that I greased the front end loader, and that I tightened the bolts on the front end loader. Okay, so I know this was long and drawn out, but you know, hopefully you guys learned something. And Kingston and Princeton, hopefully you did learn something. But you know, that's pretty much it. I know a lot of you know how to do this and have done it and over and over and over. So I'm just preaching to the choir on a lot of people. So, but if if you learned something from what I did or what mistake I may have made or anything, that's great. But so that's pretty much it. So y'all have a good one. Talk to you later.